Hello and welcome back. For this video we are going to cover a little bit of the history of the field of microbiology, and as you can see we're going to go back a little ways to Robert Hooke and Antoine van Leeuwenhoek in the 1600s. And what they did is they weren't microbiologists because the field of microbiology did not exist at this point. But they were involved in developing early microscopes. So as humans, we naturally have trouble believing things that we can't see. So the invention of the microscope contributed to the start of the field of microbiology, because in 1684, van Leeuwenhoek was able to visualize the first microbe. Okay, so that we knew back in history that something made people sick, but that something wasn't something that we were able to see with the naked eye. Microscopes kind of brought the field of microbiology into view. Okay, so that's kind of the very early starting point of microbiology, and following how diseases progress continued into the 1700s with Edward Jenner. And what he had really was the first, and I'm going to kind of put it in quotes, vaccine. Because what he did is he actually noted that people who tended to work on farms didn't tend to come down with the disease smallpox. And that's because there is a similar disease called cowpox, okay? And cowpox and smallpox are two very similar diseases. Smallpox occurs in humans. Cowpox, I'm going to take it that you'll get by the name, occurs typically in cows. But what Edward Jenner did is he took one of those pustules that was on the cow, and what he did, which would totally not fly by any ethics committee in today's world, but what he did is he took that bit of pus from that cowpox and he put it underneath the skin of a child. And that child did not then go on to develop smallpox. So that's why I kind of have vaccine in quotes here, is because he wasn't actually injecting anything like we typically think of in today's world with vaccines. But what he did is he showed that you could transfer immunity from one disease via introducing a little bit of that to the individual. Because cowpox and smallpox are different enough. Cowpox will not make you sick as a human. But it's similar enough to smallpox that what it did is it stimulated an immune response, and it was close enough to keep out smallpox, okay? So it conferred some immunity that way. So we'll kind of continue on here, and I'm kind of jumping a bit ahead here to the 1860s with Louie Pastore. And that is a proper name, so I should capitalize that, shouldn't I? There we go. And Louie Pastore is probably one of the more well-known microbiologists. He was involved in a lot of early microbiology work, studying things like rabies. He studied also how essentially what we know today as bacteria are transmitted. Because what he showed through his work is that essentially life is going to come from life. So what he showed is that spontaneous generation didn't occur. So he disproved the theory of spontaneous generation, and that life comes from life, is now what we call germ theory. So he was critical in showing how bacteria were transmitted and how they could transmit disease. Okay? The other thing that you may be aware of with Louie Pasteur is he was also involved in developing the process of pasteurization. All right? And the process of pasteurization is a derivation of his name. Okay? And what pasteurization does is it reduces the microbes in milk so that you're less likely to transmit disease, okay? So along with this, a little bit after Louie Pasteur, there is another scientist, Alice Catherine Evans, who showed that brucellosis, we'll spell it right, can cause disease. And brucellosis comes from unpasteurized milk products, okay? So there's kind of a link there. Pasteurization reduces the number of microbes. If you reduce the number of microbes, you're reducing the potential for disease processes from happening, okay? So that's kind of linked, although Alice Catherine Evans came a little bit later than Louie Pasteur. But we'll kind of wrap up with this one, since I've used up most of my board here, with these, what have I got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scientists. I've got about another 3 or 4 scientists I'm going to go over in the next video. So look for the part 2 on history. If you have any questions, please let me know.